Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Ham Radio Basics Live, Season 4, Episode 32, Ham Radio News and Updates, 8/12/2026. Hope everyone is doing well. And thank you guys for bearing with me here the past few weeks. It's just been hellaciously busy at work. I hope you guys enjoyed my rebroadcast with Walt. Walt is one of the truly great people in ham radio today. Hey, Waypoint, New England, thanks for stopping by today. Thank you. Walt is one of the great people here. Hey, KR4, how are you? It's good to see you today. Walt is one of the great people. I mean, if you get a chance, I hope you're subscribed to him. I hope you watch his videos. Walt is he's the salt of the earth. And, I think one of the reasons I like him so much is his concept in his terms of his channel. He keeps things very simple on his channel. And that's what I try to do as well. Try to keep things real simple, real basic, real straightforward. I'm going to try to get him on again. Need to have him on. Need to refresh some of these interviews because they're a couple of years old. Some of the ones are really classics, like the one with Jason and the one with Josh. There are two classic ones. Of course, Mike K at MRD was a good one as well too. So yeah. So thank you for bearing with me because I'm sorry. It's like at the last minute. It's like, but what I did was I knew I was having a busy day today. So I had a lighter day yesterday and I got ready I have my drone show on Tuesday nights. So I got ready for my drone show. And as I got ready for my drone show, I got done early. So I got this ready for tonight. So, and I think you guys are going to be real pleased. We're going to talk about a great topic tonight. This is going to be good. And most of you know, it's the Huntsville Ham Fest this weekend, Saturday and Sunday in Huntsville, Alabama. When I retire, we're definitely going to head there. Now I know I did check flights here from Tampa. And they actually are flights out there from Allegiant Airlines, which is a good airline. But the problem with Allegiant is their schedule is sporadic. They don't fly every day to Huntsville, and they don't come back every day to Tampa St. Pete. So kind of have to coordinate things. But there's a lot to do in Huntsville. There's a space center there, which is something both I and my wife loves, the space program as well too. So that's going to be a fun trip when we go. And everything's indoors there. And everybody says it's the friendliest ham fest. And I got to meet several of them while we were at, hey, Sergeant Rock, thanks for stopping by today. Appreciate that. I got to meet some of them when they were at Hamcation the last time we went. Just incredible people there. And they do such a good job. And I'm really anxious to get there and to experience that. And it's all inside. It's air conditioned. How can you not say no to something like that? There's plenty of room there. It's not, in the one knock that I have, I don't want to say knock, but there are probably several, but with Hamcation, everything's narrow there. The tables are narrow there. The aisles are kind of narrow there. And it's really kind of hard to navigate, to get around. And of course, there's everybody and his brother. It's really basically one big building there. And, there's a couple, there's actually two, and there's a breezeway that connects them, but still, it's just, but here it's nice. It's spacious. It's easy to get to. There's plenty of hotels in the area there. I know a lot of the ham radio YouTubers, there's a park nearby that they camp out at. I know Jason's having some kind of special meet and greet at Gigaparts with a dinner there. And I think 100 people are limited. If you're on his email list, you probably got that. That's a great opportunity. And for those of you that are actually going, that are watching me, if you could do me a favor, drop some pictures on some social media, whether it's like on Ham Radio Basics, out on X or on Twitter or out on the Facebook group. If you're there, love to see some pictures of you guys at the Huntsville Ham Fest. I think that would be awesome. And again, we're going to get there. It's probably going to be maybe not next year, but probably the year after that. For sure, we're going to get there. That's one that's always really on my list. And people say it's one of the ones that you want to come back to because, because of number one, because of how friendly people are down there. And that is something that I keep hearing over and over again from multiple people is how friendly people are, number one. And number two, the uniqueness of the stuff that's offered in the swap area. It's just not always, you see these stock amplifiers and some things that probably were, Army surplus. And you see them everywhere. I mean, they're at all the ham fests and everything, and it's like, oh, okay. I'm not really looking for that. I'm looking for something with like Zygu or Yaesu or ICOM or Kenwood or on it. So that's what's kind of gearing me there. But Andy, welcome. Thanks for stopping by today. Well, we're going to get to the main topic here, and the main topic is a really exciting one. Okay, as you guys are all really well aware of, Zygu is coming out with a new radio. It's the Zygu GZ7250. Okay, and so it's kind of a mouthful to say, but I put together a top 10 presentation for you guys because I want you to know about this radio. I want you to know what we can expect, and just we'll kind of do some talking after the slides are done. But let me go ahead and share that here. There we go. All right. Top 10 things you need to know about the Zygu GZ7250 100-watt HF and 6-meter transceiver. A full power, split design, direct sampling SDR from Zygu. All right. The G7250 moves Zygu into mainstream full power HF territory. Up to 100 watts output on HF, approximately 90 watts on the 6-meter band. A major step beyond Zygu's familiar QRP and 20-watt radios, and designed to compete as a primary shack or mobile HF radio. And really, I mean, that is one of the things I think that really kind of draws a lot of people to this, is that it's just not, it's while it's perfect for a shack, it's also perfect for going out and doing POTA. I mean, it really is. It's very portable. It looks like a very small form factor, and I really think this is going to be something. This is going to be something that's really. I mean, Zygu to me has already been on the map. Their G90 is really kind of a legend and a classic as far as radios were concerned. And I know that's Walt's bread and butter and his staple. He got so much use out of that radio. It's incredible. 20 watts. It's absolutely fantastic. But this is 100 watts and it's SDR, and it's just a whole new ball game with all of this. So that's why it's like really exciting that this really is a 100-watt radio that's coming out from Zygu. Let's go ahead and check out the second slide here. Now, published coverage. The radio combines traditional HF coverage with a 50 megahertz amateur band. Published coverage 0.5 to 30 megahertz and 50 to 54 megahertz. Modes includes SSB, CW, NFM, AM, and DIG. HF plus 6 meters makes it much more versatile as an all-purpose station radio. Minimum published tuning step is 1 hertz. Okay, and it's pretty much standard fare with this. I really like the layout. One of the things, a lot of these base transceivers, you get used to the 7300 and so forth, but you start taking a step up. Like you take a look at the 7610 from ICOM, for example, or some of the higher radios from Yaesu coming up there. There's a lot of controls on there. And to me, like I said, as I started the broadcast tonight, one of the things, reason that I started this channel was I really want to keep things simple. I don't want to overcomplicate things for people coming into ham radio. That's kind of been my goal as far as that's concerned. Another YouTuber called it a baby flex. Yeah, you know what? I agree. I agree, Cooley. Absolutely. I really think so. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. It really is. It really is. Tariq, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. I really, that's a great designation there, Cooley. That really, it's very perfect. And the one thing, that really appeals to me about this is the simplicity of controls. I mean, it's a nice panel. It's well laid out. And their controls seem to be very intuitive, and I really like that. Everything's right there. You don't have dozens of buttons to push. It's very straightforward, and I really like that. Let's go ahead and move on here. Okay. This is direct sampling SDR. The G7250 is built around a direct RF sampling architecture with DSP, real-time spectrum scope and waterfall display, adjustable digital filtering, digital noise reduction, noise blanker, and noise threshold functions, modern SDR architecture rather than the traditional super heterodome design. I'm sorry. Wow. Okay. That's a lot for getting out on Wednesday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after a day of work. Okay. All right. But obviously with all the things that, radio, what we expect from radios today is having those waterfalls, and they're so valuable. I mean, it's like, where were we before waterfalls came out? Okay. And being able to try scan the bands here. And it was a lot more challenging back in the day before we had waterfalls and spectrum displays. But now, I mean, again, the manufacturers have really kind of geared a lot of these radios to being, making it very user friendly to be able to get on, to be able to find people, to be able to talk. I mean, that's what we love to do on ham radio. We love to talk on there. And some of the, there's digital filtering on this now, digital noise reduction as well, and noise blanker. And, it's, having that spectrum scope and waterfall display. I mean, it really lends itself to, saying, this is Xiegoo's taken a quantum leap here with this. All right. I'm sure this had been in the works for a while. And, coming off the last two big radios that I've seen from them, the 6100, the 6200, I had both of them. Both of them in a way I liked the 6100 more than the 6200, but the 6100 had that battery heating issue, and the 6200 only went up to 8 watts. And I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. All right. If you have a QRP radio, you got to do at least 10 watts on that. So, and I know they put out some explanations and things like that, but here, this is 100 watts, and this is, and it's in a form factor that's just very user friendly. It's very nice to be able, I mean, it's something like we already discussed, being able to have, it'll have it in your shack, and not only have it in your shack, you can also have it and take it out for POTA as well too. So this is gonna be a very, very versatile radio here. Ham radio basics thought. The SD architecture is central to what makes the GZ7250 different from earlier Xiegoo radios, and it really does. That's a great point here. The 7-inch control head is a major feature, and of course, what do I show you? But the back of the unit here with the fan and all the inputs. But and let me say this about what we see on the back. It's very simple. If you look back there, there's 2 jacks for antennas. It looks like there's a power pole for your power supply. And there's a couple of ports right here, and there's a couple of ports right up here. So yeah, I mean, it's again simple as well. A large, and of course I'm not showing the touchscreen here, but it's a 7-inch high resolution capacitive touchscreen, and that's nice. It's a touchscreen. Physical buttons and control knobs remain available. Large display should make spectrum and waterfall information easier to use. A significant usability upgrade over small screen Xiegoo radios. I know the G90, like I said, it's like probably one of the best radios that Xiegoo's ever come out with, but unfortunately that display is like super small, and it's not the easiest to read in the world. So yeah, they've really come quantum leaps as far as that's concerned. Ham radio basics thought. Xiegoo is combining touchscreen convenience with physical controls many operators still want, and that's key. I think Xiegoo's really kind of taken the pulse of a lot of the ham radio community when they put this together, because it's checking off a lot of boxes here. The control head is detachable. The controller and RF deck are separate units. One of the G7250's defining features. Controller and main RF deck can be installed independently. Published information says they connect by Ethernet. Separation is stated up to roughly 100 meters. Could simplify tight shacks, mobile installations, and antenna side RF placement. I did not know that until I put the slide deck together here, and that's incredible. That there was that. I knew that you could have them separate, but I didn't know the separation was up to 100 meters. That's incredible. All right, that is just absolutely incredible, and what you can do with all of that is just, it's kind of mind-boggling. And wow, Wow, I really that's an absolutely incredible feature. I mean, this is something, what was it? I think ICOM came out with that on their radio, their big radio they came out with last year, having that remote head unit kind of a thing. And this is something I think Zygo obviously had this in the works, so don't want to say that they copycatted or anything, but this is an incredible feature, and it really it's like, okay, this is something that's it's knocking on my door already. I can tell you that right now. And Hammer Basics thought the split design may be the feature that separates the G7250 from most conventional 100-watt radios. It does. It really does. Having that capability and ability is really just something absolutely incredible. There's a built-in automatic antenna tuner, and Zygo is very famous for that. On they have that on their G90. It was on the 6100. It was on the 6200. Zygo includes an internal ATU with band memory capability. Published matching range approximately 20 to 150 ohms. Initial tuning is specified at 10 seconds or less. Memory tuning is specified at 1/10 of a second or less. Stored settings can be recalled when returning to previously tuned band. Wow. Okay. That's just absolutely incredible. And I can say this. I know, especially on the 6100, because I had it longer than the 6200, the tuner really works well. All right. Obviously, you want to, I won't get in on my soapbox and preach resonant antennas, but if your antenna is resonant, okay, and you're doing tuning, you're gonna get results like this, and that's going to be absolutely incredible. The Hammer Basics thought the published tuner specifications look promising, but difficult real-world loads still need independent testing, and that's very true. Okay, again, what we're stating here is the facts that Zygo was published through Radio Oddity. Obviously, they're their main supplier here in the United States. So kind of taking things with a grain of salt right now, but boy, things are sounding real good for this. Digital and remote operation could be a strength. The architecture makes the G7250 especially interesting for modern station setups. Digital mode is included in the published mode list. Remote baseband signal transmission over a network is advertised. That's incredible. Ethernet connected split design opens interesting remote shack possibilities. Like you can have your the base unit somewhere and be 100 meters away in your house and have the head unit there and just have a nice neat shack on say like a roll top desk or something like that. So just incredible. Exact USB audio, CAT, push to talk, and software behavior still needs production radio confirmation. So there's just some things here, because it's so early in the process here. We don't know a lot of these things, but as more time goes along, we'll find them out. And Ham Radio Basics and Ham Radio Diva will be sure to pass that information on to you guys. Ham Radio Basics thought the hardware looks ready for a network shack. The software implementation will determine how powerful that becomes, and that's very true. Move on here. Plan on a series 13.8 volt power supply. A 100-watt radio belongs in a different power class from Zygo's QRP offerings. Published supply range is 9 to 15 volts DC. Full power HF station should be paired with a robust 13.8 volt supply. Plan conservatively for a quality 30 amp class supply unless final documentation specifies otherwise. And that's a really good advice right there. Portable use will require battery system size for full power transmitting. And that's true too. And, with things like that, all right, first of all, you want to get yourself, there's some things you don't skimp on in ham radio. And one of them is a power supply. I mean, you can get something for $99. It's going to be, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a power supply that's worth $99. You don't want to pair that up with a transceiver like this. This is elite category to me already. I'm going to go out there and say that, even though I haven't seen a review video on this. Okay, you want to pair it up with something that's worthy. You know how they always said, one of my first Elmers told me, you can spend all the money in the world on transceiver, but if you have a $100 antenna out there, it's going to show. But if you have a $500 antenna out there and get a bare bones receiver, it's going to shine. And he was so right about that. He says, You want to focus on that antenna. It's the same thing here. You want to focus on that power supply. You want to give it a good power supply because it's going to need that. All right. At 100 watts, you're definitely going to want something. And you're going to want something that's going to stand up to that. It's going to have options on it. And that's why you go ahead and you'll spend 250, 300, 350 on a good power supply for this. And then, of course, you want to get probably, if you're going to go out in the field, you want to get a good Bioenno battery for this. I use Bioenno as an example. There are other ones out there, and I've reviewed other ones that are good as well. But Bioenno, they're very popular. They're proven. They have a great track record, and that's something that I would highly recommend if you're going to go out and do POTA with this, is to get a good Bioenno battery, match it up to this. Look at the specs. Wait till the specs come out so you can find out exactly what you're going to need here. But, it said plan conservatively for quality 30 amp class supply. And that's what I would plan for with like a Bioenno as well, too. So you're going to need you're going to need a lot of juice. If you're going to go out for something like this on 100 watt that produces 100 watts, you're going to need a cream of the crop Bioenno to be able to handle this for you. Okay. Don't judge receiver and transmitter performance yet. And this is a really good caution right here. The preliminary numbers are interesting, but independent laboratory testing matters. Published sensitivity is about 0.2 UV for SSB, CW, and FM. Published MDS approximately minus 138 dBm. Strong signal handling, dynamic range, and adjacent signal performance need independent testing. Transmit, IMD, harmonics, phase noise, spatial purity, and heat management also matter. And again, this is something that we're going to be finding out in the coming months. And I'm going to assume, I would assume something like this. We probably won't see this probably until the end of the year is my guess at the earliest, or maybe early 2027. I don't know, but that's just a guess right here. But you're going to, and one of the big things that comes out now, Radio Oddity is really good about getting good reviews out there and getting good, basic reviews that really, tell you all about this. And I think that's one thing that it's going to be key for this is these reviews. And also, hopefully, they'll get them in the hands of people like T.O. Okay. I know, I even think T.O. works for Radio Oddity. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he does. And, be able to get them in the hands of people that can really put them through its paces and get them out there and check how is it on 10 meters? How is it on 20? Just check the different bands, see how it reacts to that. See how it reacts to different antennas, a vertical or an end-fed half wave, what's it pair up well with, these kind of things. And also too, noise and filtering and things. Just a whole host of things need to be done before you can go out and put your MasterCard or Visa down to get one of these. But it's really promising, and it's really something I think is really going to be worth paying a lot of attention to. Hammer Basics thought a great specification sheet is only the beginning. Production hardware needs to prove itself on the bench and on the air, and that's very true. Like I said, they'll get some good testers out there to be able to put it through its paces. And I'll be real interested in seeing these. Now, we'll make sure that you'll get them out on on Ham Radio Basics and out on Ham Radio Divas. We'll get those review videos out there so you guys can go ahead and watch them. And we're going to talk a lot more about this as the time approaches for its actual release. The hardware concept is ambitious, but software support could make or break the experience here. Firmware may turn whether it's great. Firmware stability will be critical. CAT and third-party software compatibility need to be verified. Network and remote features must work reliably in everyday operation. Long-term updates and support remain important in early adopter questions. And that's very true, because I know, like when the 6100 first came out, there was a firmware update that I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you did it, it would brick the unit, and they had to replace several of the 6100s because of that. So, that's an area of concern. That's a big question, and because Zygo is a smaller company, and I think this is where the rubber is going to meet the road for Zygo, is if they can get good software for this radio and be able to do updates on a timely basis and make these updates easier, my gosh, doing the updates for like the 6100, you had to put it on an SD card and transfer the SD card to the radio, and oh my goodness, it was a real hassle. And make these firmware updates easy, and I think they did a lot better on the 6200 as far as firmware updates were concerned. But again, because they had that history, that's something to be concerned about, and I would definitely be concerned about this. So this is a radio that you're going to want to see a lot of reviews on. You're going to want to see reviews on the firmware. You're going to want to see reviews on the use of this. You're going to want to see reviews on power supply, just a whole host of things before you go ahead and hit that buy button. But it really does look promising right here. Xiegu is finally coming after the mainstream 100-watt HF market. This is what makes the GZ7250 significant. It's not simply another G90 X6100 style portable radio with more power. Xiegu appears to be aiming at operators who would normally be considering radios from ICOM, Yaesu, Kenwood, or Flex Radio, while trying to differentiate itself with large detachable network-connected control head. The big unanswered question isn't whether the specification sheet looks good. It does. It's whether the receiver performance, transmitted signal quality, firmware, and software ecosystem are good enough to compete with established 100-watt radios. I'd also be cautious about calling it an IC7300 killer yet. There simply isn't enough independent production radio testing to support that. For Ham Radio Basics, Xiegu finally coming after the mainstream 100-watt HF market. And, one of the questions I've gotten already on this, probably in abundance, is how much do I think it'll be? I was like, wow, okay. All right. That's kind of a loaded question. My guess for something like this, and knowing how Xiegu has priced radios before, in terms of it, expect it to be on the higher end of a price. My guess it's going to be under 2,000. It's going to fall somewhere between $1,500 and probably $2,000, just because of all the feature set that it has on it. And then again, I may be wrong. It may be between $1,500 and $1,000. Okay, that may be possible as well too, depending upon everything. And the more I think about that, as those came out of my mouth, they want to price themselves. They don't want to price themselves out of business, because if they go 1,500 to 2,000 route, that's going to be, I'm thinking in terms of flex radio, because you know how expensive flex radios are. And I think what will do them well is if they can find a sweet spot between $1,000 and $1,500 as far as pricing is concerned. I think this will make I think it'll bode very well for them. And especially if the firmware pans out, if the testing pans out on this, okay, these are going to sell. These are going to fly off the shelves. Radio Oddity is going to run out of stock on these very easily. And a lot of it's going to be dependent upon people like TO and others getting units like this and putting it through its paces, getting those power supplies, getting different antennas hooked up to it, looking how it is on different bands and, and CW and digital modes, and just, trying really just testing the daylights out of this to see how it's going to be. So, like I said, I'm not expecting this until probably late this year or probably early 2027 would be my guess on this. I don't know. I also don't know, and I'm a stickler for it, because I know with my drone channel, I look for FCC approval on this. I assume it probably has FCC approval already. I don't know that. I would like to find that out. If anybody knows, drop a comment on the video and let me know that, because I'm real curious to see if they do have that already from the FCC. I know a lot of times, obviously, drones are having a real issue with the FCC right now, but they're kind of laid off ham radio, which is good for us as far as ham radio enthusiasts are concerned. So that's it in a nutshell for the G7250 for right now. I get any more updates, we'll definitely post them out there on Ham Radio Divas and Ham Radio Basics. I want to keep you guys in the loop on this. I want to thank everybody who stopped by in the chat today. Cooley, thanks for stopping by. Sergeant Rock, Andy, Waypoint New England, thank you guys so much. And for all you guys that are watching out there live, I really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. You know, I know we've expanded to Ham Radio Divas, our sister channel, and you know, getting a lot of people watching us and getting exposed to us, which is great. And you know, you're gonna a lot more of these to come here. So you know, I'm going to try to stay on top of being able to get you guys a show on Wednesday because you deserve it. Okay, you guys are great. Your comments are awesome. Your support is incredible. I thank each and every one of you for that. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Cooley, have a great vacation. And as always, guys, remember, it's a great day to make a QSO. 7 3s, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.